Hi, welcome to our casual talk. In this session, we brought three professional hackers here. So we will talk about some topics you can face at work very easily. So all of us are working at Line. I think the topics will be interesting for all people in this industry. There will be a Q&A section at the end, so feel free to give us questions if you have. Next slide. So I'm going to introduce myself quickly. My hack handle is Beast, and I'm working in Line Plus Korea. I'm a director of the security center, and I'm working with multiple teams in Korea, Japan, and Taiwan, and Thailand. I started my career in 2000 as a penetration tester. Before starting our talk, can you please introduce yourself? HeungSoo first.
Sure. Hi, my name is HeungSoo, and I'm the lead of Gray Lab, one of the security teams in Line. Our team has many roles, including finding vulnerabilities from our new internal projects or internal tools. We do pen testing or security management of specific projects too. We also do security awareness education on all employees. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Jongho from Security R&D team. I've been working as a pen tester more than 10 years, and now I'm working as a lead of the Security R&D team. Personally, I'm responsible for security research and security consulting right now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charles. I'm a member of the security R&D team working from Japan at Line Corporation. So my focus is mostly on trying to improve Line product security by reviewing, designing, but also implementing security features that we can then integrate into our products. Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you for introduction. Next slide. So here's our first topic. So what are the most difficult things working at big companies like Line? So let me hear stories from you guys. HeungSoo, can you talk about it?
Yep, I think I'd say the biggest challenge comes from the huge infrastructure we have. Line has internal cloud computing system, just like AWS, and our dev team can launch service instances to run their codes very quickly. There are so many parts in our infrastructure to take cover, and that's, I think, it's the biggest challenge.
Right, I completely agree. Line is a really huge scale enterprise, and the scale manifests itself in different ways. Another aspect is the number of services we have. It's impossible for one single engineer to understand and cover all the services we have. Also, another aspect of the scale is the number of users we serve. Often when we try to implement security features, a limiting factor is how do we scale to that large number of users in terms of performance, but also storage cost. The last scaling factor is Line spans several countries, both in terms of users, but also offices. And different countries, they have a different security culture and different approach to security. And sometimes matching the different behavior of those different countries can be difficult.
Thank you. Next slide. So I think everyone here is a hacker. So what is to work at a big firm as a hacker or security engineers? Jongho, what do you think on it?
Yeah, there are pros and cons working in a big company. Since it's a big, you can encounter lots of diversity. There are many departments and many services, and they have different cultures and different protocols. And they even use their own jargons. So we need to handle those difficulties too. But I think it's also a good opportunity to learn from those diversities. Each department has their own wisdom for their goals. So if you're willing to, you can learn from them. I think that's the most biggest part working in a big company.
Right. Another aspect, I mean, before Line, I was working in a small company in consulting, and Line is a business. So the business aspect of things is very important. As security engineers, we don't often think about the business side of things, but when we're trying to collaborate with all those teams and departments, we often have to explain things in terms of business. For a certain vulnerability, what is the actual business impact in terms of money, in terms of private data, in terms of reputation. Also, if we try to argue for a security feature, then we have to start judging the potential business risk and the potential business cost of the feature. So that's something that's very different for me from working in a large company.
Thank you. Next slide. So we know there are many good solutions we can use at work, like automation product, enterprise product, even vulnerability scanners. But still, lots of security space is covered by the people. So it's really important to work with good people. However, the hiring good engineers is very difficult. How do you find great engineers? Can you share some tips here, HeungSoo?
Yeah, for me, it was always referrals from good researchers, which always worked. So along your career, you get to meet many awesome researchers, either as coworkers or just social friends. So if you ask a great researcher for another researcher to recommend, they always know another researchers. So you can contact them and try to hire them. The downside is that the number of recommendation is not high. And usually those good people are not considering to move because since these engineers are mostly core members of their current company, and it makes them feel obligated to stay. So you have to start all the way from persuading them to move to your team.
Right. Finding good people is not difficult. The problem is there are not many and they are in high demands. So the challenge is convincing them. Often timing is key. You have to be there at the right moment to offer the right opportunity when they're trying to switch job. And so that's why I think it's important to maintain a good relationship among your peers and among the security scene. So that means participating in conference, either as an attendee or as a speaker, publishing papers or just technical blogs, still participating in forums, RSC chat, things like that, or getting involved in open source security projects so that you stay in relation with those people. And then when they're trying to find a new place to work, it's up to you to convince them Line is a good opportunity.
Great. You two guys mentioned the meeting the hackers at conferences is good. So can you recommend any conference? Which conference we can meet the hackers, good hackers?
I really like more underground conference. I tend to prefer smaller events than larger ones because there's as many interesting people in smaller events as larger ones. But at smaller events, you get the chance to meet a lot of interesting people. But my favorite conference is probably the Chaos Computer Club, the Chaos Computer Congress, and a camp as well.
Another tip is to look at the agenda, and there are two types of conferences which focus on technical terms and the other on service or business terms. So if you're going to contact people in conferences to hire, it's quite difficult to find them in big ones like Black Hat because people from all over the world is going to join. So joining in your local conferences is a nice way. So look for technical conferences in your local area, in your country, and look for good people in the participants, speakers, or in networking party too. I'd recommend Bex, which is a line. It's backing up.
Yeah, it's a nice conference. So,
Yeah.
but not everyone is social. So how do you make a contact at the conference when you meet people?
I try to convince myself that the others are just like me, just other computer engineers, just as shy as I am.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
Confidence. Yeah.
I don't want to encourage unhealthy behavior, but alcohol sometimes helps.
Yeah.
Right. Next slide. The IT market moves so fast. Even employees move to new companies very often. So how do you keep the team members? I don't think this is an easy problem. HeungSoo, can you start?
Yeah, this is a very difficult problem to solve. My best idea could be, as a manager, you should figure out from each member of your team what motivates or discourages them. For someone, it can be compensation, money or bonus, or someone else, it could be how fun the work is, how you are trying to build your career or promotion, or it could be just simple somebody hating someone else. So you should try to figure out what that is. But people aren't usually totally honest when you ask those kind of questions. Especially in Asian culture, they tend to just respond, "I'm fine." So you have to build a good relationship so your team member can really be honest on some serious topics. Also, coworkers are a very motivating factor too. So if you like your team as a technician or as friends, if you like them, you don't want to move. You don't want to take risks by moving to another team. It'll be too much of a risk, losing your friends and nice coworkers too. That's it for me.
Yeah, I think I agree with HeungSoo in general, but I think I want to focus more on the latter part. I think qualified engineers would get well paid, basically. So I don't think the salary would matter in general, but what matters is, I think, the job satisfaction and self-efficacy. So personally, in my opinion, if I the qualified engineers very sick of the challenges to achieve. So they want to feel that they are playing an important role in the company, and they want to feel that they are growing with those tasks. So most of them find very delight when they find the company is growing because of them. So I think that's the biggest part. So for me, I think it is important to support them to achieve some challenges. Yeah.
Thank you. This might be a silly question. So HeungSoo, you mentioned the good relationship. So can you tell us, how do you make a good relationship with team members?
Since the COVID-19, it's very hard to build nice relationships personally, especially we used to have lunch all together every day, and we talk to each other about silly stuff. But since we're all working from home now, you can easily feel more separated from other team members. Our team's approach is to chat as much as possible through our messenger line. Not only related to work, we just try to chat about silly stuff or social things, funny stuff in the internet, etc. We also talk about bitcoins or investments, etc., etc. That's kind of everything that can join and laugh about. That makes, I think, team feel more close to each other.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, the common interest is very important, I think. But I think most of the time it happens naturally in my cases. So the good engineers can be attractive to each other. So yeah, I didn't do anything intentionally, but I think it happens naturally all the time.
That's a good point. Thank you. So next slide, please. So this is a simple question, but difficult to answer. So what do you find from your job? Is your work boring or is your work fun? HeungSoo, please.
Yeah, I find most of the tasks fun, but sometimes you can find it repetitive when they have to keep looking for same bugs, same vulnerabilities, or do the same assessment on another project. But Line's security engineers, including my team, are all professionals, and we share the same idea that vulnerability assessment is not about finding fun or technically advanced vulnerabilities. That is for conference papers, conference talks. The job is much more about not missing easy bugs and not missing easy threats. Everybody would agree that if you miss an easy vulnerability, it'll be easily found by hackers. So although everyone is looking for technical satisfactions through their job, still we share the same idea that basic things really matter and they should not be ignored.
Yeah, we're not living in an ideal world. So this is my third job, so I know how the work is. So there are many boring stuff as well, but somebody should take care of it. So I think it's part of the life, right? Everything cannot be perfect. But the thing is, we should have some kind of spirit to find the fun part from the job. For me, in line, I think as I mentioned, the biggest part is I can lots of new things. There are many departments, so I can find many funny things from other departments. I think that's the point. So we should find some good point working in the company. Well, in my case, it's learning, but there are many kinds of fun. So I think we are in the journey of finding fun part in the work.
Okay, thank you. We just got a question from the audience. So what has been your biggest oh no moment as an engineer at Line? Maybe we could just answer on it, but we're out of time. So we will try to answer it at the end of the session, the Q&A session. So let's continue. Next slide, please. Okay, we know communication is very important at work. I think it's so special in security industry because we are not fixing our problems, but we are fixing other people's problem, which means that we gotta convince them, you gotta talk to them, even if they don't listen to you, because you gotta handle it. Since this is your job at work. So what do you think on it, Jongho?
Yeah, communication doesn't matter, especially in a big company. It's not like a startup. The decision making takes some time. There are many obstacles in communications. Sometimes there are misunderstandings because we have different backgrounds, and it can also take some lots of time to get responses. So it's not easy. But to make the things happen, we need to go through the communication obstacles. Personally, I'm trying to use lots of examples and references so that I can make them understand the concepts and the reasons behind. But honestly, it doesn't work always. So sometimes I also need to use the chain of command in that case.
Yeah, for me, as a security team, we always have to talk to other members of the company for various reasons. To like total stranger, you see them for the first time, you have to start conversation. And some engineers find it stressful and burdening. Thankfully, we have Line Messenger, and we expose our line IDs in internal systems. So you can send them email, but instead you can also try to start casual talks, conversation through Line Messenger. That makes it much more easier.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. So career management is very important for everyone. So what's your plan for next 5 or 10 years? So what do you tell your team members about their next 5 or 10 years? Charles?
So I think in security, it's important to maintain a good balance between theory and practice. This is because security is by nature a very competitive field. So you want every advantage you can get. So you need to keep up to date with the latest research, the latest security tools, the latest technology used by developers. But at the same time, if you don't do any practice, you don't know how to apply that knowledge and have an impact in your company. So my biggest advice is to keep that good balance between theory and practice. That's what I'm doing now, and that's what I'm hoping to do in the next 5 to 10 years. In terms of where the security field is moving, engineers are really good at automating their tasks to try to do more with less time. And I think security is constantly moving towards automation. So automated bug finding, automated theorem proving to have formal proofs of security. That's one aspect. And another one is, thanks to cryptocurrency, there's been a newly gained interest in modern cryptographic primitives. So things like homomorphic encryption and zero knowledge. And it's starting to have some impact and be used in the real world. So those are two topics which I find very interesting for the next 5 to 10 years.
I'd like to give some more general idea. So I can talk about what I would recommend to researchers, such as my teammates, who have excellent understanding on vulnerabilities and threats. For these types of engineers, I would recommend to build more understanding on overall management of corporate security. So your skills on vulnerabilities and threats can be a great help when it comes to managing the overall corporate security, where it is more important to assemble many types of security team tasks to cover a broad aspect of security threats.
Okay. So Charles, you mentioned the blockchain. Do you have any Bitcoin?
Officially? No, I don't. Wink, wink.
So you mentioned about like how researchers can the plan for the future. So what do you study when free time?
Currently I'm looking more into formal proofs, but also zero knowledge, especially the papers on the ZK snarks to enable a kind of to execute any kind of code and be able to prove property on the execution of the code without leaking the data it operates on. Those are very interesting topics, but the maths are quite complex, even for me.
Right. Okay, thank you. We can move on to the next slide. So I'm pretty sure we have a student audience here. So they might be interested in working in the security industry. All of you, what's your best advice to them? Jongho, can you start?
Yeah, I think this question is related to the previous one. And on top of that, I think it is better to be specialized. There are many use cases of IT systems now, and they all need security right now. But because of its diversity, no one can cover them all. So, and you can't chase two rabbits at the same time. So you may want to be specialized in certain domains. There might be some fields you are interested in, like financial industry or commodity industry. And then you can hone your security skill regarding those domains. And then I think it would be much easier and enjoyable overall.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. We have a question that's really related. So somebody asking, saying that they have zero experience, knowledge in security, only has a programming course in university, but they would like to know how to get into cyber security. I think everybody will agree. I recommend doing security challenges. We call them Capture the Flag, CTFs for short. And there are introductory one available on the websites that really walks you through basic vulnerability and basic ways to exploit them or solve them. Regarding the question about career, I think the most interesting entry-level positions are the one where the company can provide either good training or good mentoring. So for good mentoring, you should look for a company that has good engineers that you can work with and collaborate with. Personally, I was blessed to work with wonderful colleagues in a consulting company before, and that's where I learned a lot. But also it can be training if that company can provide you participation into conferences and formations, training, things like that. That's great.
Okay. Charles told us about the CTF. It's a hacking competition. But if you like reading books, I would recommend The Art of the Software Security Assessment. It's a really nice book. Maybe if you go through all the book, maybe you could understand like 60 or 70 types of vulnerabilities. So it's definitely worth a read. Next slide. So this is the Q&A section, but before Q&A section, we hope the audience enjoyed our talk, but due to the time limitation, we couldn't cover everything. So we are getting questions and again and again. So maybe we can pick one of them and we can explain answer to them. Anything interesting question from you guys?
Yeah. Do you guys split your responsibility based on platform, line backend security specialty, mobile security specialty? No, actually, because often a vulnerability involves every step of the chain. It's important to understand every step of the chain because it originates from the client device up to the backend. So you have to understand why each system was built this way and where you should actually fix it.
Okay. Another was asking, what are the difficulties handling security issues that only available in specific countries? We first have a local security team, and if there's issues that they cannot handle themselves, it goes to the security center. The control tower, which is in Japan. So we review it, and we are out of time. Thank you for taking your time. We are really honored to run this program.
Hi, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.